First of all, I want to welcome all of you to this wonderful new facility that we have available to us here in Muskegon. It's a pretty awesome place, and there's good work that's being done here, and I think No More Sidelines is a classic example of a mission-driven nonprofit organization that really saw community need and developed a whole program and a not just a sense of mission, but also a business plan to make it work. As the slide says, I'm Mary Ann Gorman. I'm Executive Director of Harbor Hospice, and I'm also, it's been my privilege to serve as the chair of the Muskegon End of Life Coalition for the past 12, 13 years. We're very welcome, and we're very happy that you're able to join us today as our coalition joins with many end-of-life coalitions and organizations around the country that are celebrating what has become known as National Healthcare Decisions Day. And you're going to hear more about what that's all about, but what I'd like you to know, first of all, about the Muskegon End of Life Coalition is that it is a collaborative. It's a collaborative of a number of organizations in our community, and we work under the auspices of the Mercy Health Project, one of the many collaboratives, community collaboratives that they have sponsored and supported. The partners in the End of Life Coalition include Mercy Health, Life Circles PACE, Lakeshore Health Network, Harbor Hospice, Senior Resources, Mercy VNS and Hospice, and Hackley Community Care. And one takeaway that I would like you to have is that we are looking to increase and expand that number. This is not an exclusive group. So one of the things we're doing today is extending that invitation to all of you to think about how you could become involved in the End of Life Coalition. For a number of years, we have had a very strong focus on the subject of advanced care planning. That's what our focus is today. And one of the things that we have as a major goal is that every adult, when queried by their physician, do you have an advance directive? That every adult in the region that we served would be able to say unhesitatingly, yes, I do. Okay. So the question being, do you have an advance directive? And adults are going to be able to say, yes, I do. Another goal we have, of course, is that the values and preferences, the wishes, the directives that are in that document are known by the healthcare team. There's an understanding of what that individual wants for their care when they may find themselves in a situation that they're not able to express what those wishes and preferences are. And then finally, and this is of course really important to many of us who are healthcare providers, that we follow what the document says, that actually the care that is delivered lines up really well with what that individual has expressed in their advance directive. So this is a whole process. This is about having the conversations. You're going to hear much more about that in our program this morning. It's our hope, as I said, that many of you will join with us. One of the things that we have planned at the end of the program is an opportunity for you to indicate questions that you might have and ways that you could get involved, and also ways that the coalition could help you in your either personal situation or your professional situation in the workplace.
Is your loved one's health failing? Do they need the aid and attendance of other people for their daily living activities? Were they a veteran? If so, it is possible that they are eligible for a special pension called Aid and Attendance through the Veterans Administration that will assist in paying for their health care needs. There are 4 eligibility factors to consider, and you can find out if your loved one is eligible for any of these benefits just by making a phone call to elder law attorney Anna Duggins. She can be reached at 231-722-5415, or you can email her at aud@parmenterlaw.com.
The Village at Park Terrace Senior Living Community, offering beautiful yet affordable 1- and 2-bedroom apartment homes as well as 2-bedroom cottages. Rent includes a wide variety of exceptional services, from daily meals shared in the dining room or delivered to your door, to scheduled activities and social events, to 24-hour emergency on-call service. Their expert, caring staff is there to assist you with all of your retirement needs. The Village at Park Terrace Senior Living Community, where you can enjoy the luxuries and comfort of your own home without the work and worry.
With that, I'd like to turn the mic over to one of our leaders in the coalition. The site, we were trying to decide what your title is it up there? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to hit the arrow button. He is now currently the center manager at Life Circles PACE. Where'd you go? Come on up here. Luke Reynolds, and he's soon to be the executive director, but he asked us not to put it out there yet because it's quote unquote not official. Luke is going to MC us and really just help facilitate, move the program along. Luke Reynolds.
Thank you. All right, this is an exciting day. Being part of Life Circles PACE, everyone we serve is elderly, and everyone we serve meets the nursing home level of care guidelines. So we obviously have a very concentrated focus on advanced care planning at my organization. And kind of one of the indicators that I think our community is doing a better job is if they come to our doors and they've heard of at least what it means, that means that at least they're hearing it. Unfortunately, I think the majority of people coming to us, they haven't had conversations about this. This is the first time they've actually had some facilitated conversations about it. So, I'm hoping that in the coming years, as a community, we're able to, when we see people for the first time, they have a plan in place already, and it's just us confirming that that's the plan and making sure it's followed. I think that it's important as we take this challenge on. I think many of us that are in the trenches doing the work see it as unsurmountable at times. But this video here that I'm going to show really highlights that it can be done, and that communities can make a difference, and that people's wishes can be honored and respected in the time of need. So this is a short video produced by NBC, and it highlights how advanced care planning has been done well in another community, and where eventually we'd like to see our Muskegon community.
Our next report here is one of those things a lot of American families should see because it's about a moment in life all families face. Tonight you'll see something remarkable going on at a hospital in Wisconsin that has developed a humane and life-affirming way to face what we all eventually face, and that is the end of life. Just as remarkable as you'll see are the families who allowed Harry Smith to join them in the conversation.
People come to the emergency room to have their lives saved.
Resuscitation complete.
But as Americans live longer and longer, the emergency room is not the best place to begin a conversation about how you want to live the rest of your life, or even how you want to die.
You know where you are.
Tough choices about which treatments and how much treatment become a guessing game, often powered by guilt. Palliative care specialist Carrie Lavin.
One family member may say, no, we need to do this. We have to, we have to do everything. And another family member then is saying, we just have to make her comfortable.
But that disagreement rarely happens in what might just be the best place to die in America, La Crosse, Wisconsin, home to Douglas and Lutheran Hospital. Here, an astounding 96% of the patients have a game plan for life and death. It's called an advance directive. It starts with a very tough, very honest meeting they call next steps.
Tell me what you know about Paul's condition.
He's not going to get better. And we know that.
Paul, what do you hope for with your current plan of care?
Give me as much time as I can get. But keep me comfortable.
Paul and Jean Pearson have been married 21 years, a second marriage for both. Together, they have 6 children. He's a 73-year-old retired architect. She was an interior designer. This is what real love and devotion looks like.
If you were having a good day, what would that day be like?
I'd probably be fishing.
You'd be fishing.
And she'd be with me. She's more important to me than anything.
Paul Pearson has inoperable lung cancer. He and Jean don't want there to be any doubt about how he wants to live out the rest of his life.
This discussion.
So in this meeting, run by Jackie Cartman, a nurse practitioner, Paul and Jean faced their decisions and fears head on. We were there to witness the process, which is as emotional as it is profound.
Paul, what worries you about your illness? What fears do you have?
Breathing is going to be a problem. And probably having to go to a nursing home.
Well, what about going to a nursing home?
It's being better won't be a burden to her.
Paul is emphatic. He doesn't want to linger or suffer, and he is not afraid to say so by refusing treatment.
What I'm going to do now is read through these situations. If I have a serious complication from my cancer or treatment for my cancer, so that I was facing a prolonged hospital stay and my chance of living through the complication was low. For example, only 5 out of 100 patients would live.
I would deny treatment.
It was expected that I would never either walk or talk or both, and I would require 24-hour nursing care.
And it would be the same answer.
It was expected that I would never know who I was or who I was with.
Same thing.
And I'm in agreement with.
Looking ahead to the end of life is a journey that takes no small amount of courage. And what happens in this meeting is as important for Jean as it is for Paul.
And that's what I'm saying, this is really a gift that you're giving to your family. Because at some point, if they're needing to make a decision, they can go back to this and say, yes, this is hard, this is difficult, but this is what mom or this is what dad really wanted. Did you birth on it?
One of the things they've learned here is all this talking about how you want to die, in many cases, helps people live longer, and incredibly enough, cost less. At Gunderson, patients in the last 6 months of life spend half as many days in the hospital as the national average. Bud Hammes has a PhD in philosophy from Notre Dame. He led the Gunderson team that came up with this better way to die.
When we talk with patients who are getting sicker over time, and they tell us, I've reached a point where I know there isn't much more, I'd like you to keep me comfortable. The cost of care goes down because we're not taking them back to the hospital and doing all these expensive things they don't want.
Some people will see this, though, and say, it looks like they're trying to talk people out of care.
That's not the philosophy. We really want to understand the patient's perspective. We want to understand the patient's values.
And planning ahead has another benefit, peace. When it's time to go, there is little rancor or remorse.
Hello, Eva.
While we were at Gunderson, we met the Foot family. Just the week before, 94-year-old Eva Foot was at a local fair.
I know that what you wanted for her is for her to be comfortable.
But severe stomach pain brought her to the emergency room. Eva had a life-threatening blood clot in her intestine. The Foots, like so many others here, had an advance directive, which meant they had a roadmap which led them to forego surgery because doctors found Eva's chances of regaining anything close to her former health were next to none.
Your parents let you know ahead of time what they wanted to do.
Yes. Knowing ahead of time, it takes a load off the family.
2 days later, Eva passed away peacefully, her wishes honored. For Paul Pearson's children, the plan was tough to take at first, but now that they know what he wants, they have accepted it.
You know, it does put everybody at ease.
To know that there is this plan in place.
Yeah, it really does. All of us can be prepared for each step as it comes.
The Pearsons don't feel like victims of their circumstances. In fact, just the opposite. The process has helped Paul decide how he wants to live the rest of his life. On the schedule, more fishing and historical reenactments. Jean and Paul have been going for years, and now is not the time to stop.
How helpful is it to have these conversations, to go through the scenarios ahead of time?
This gives us that advantage that we don't have to be second guessing. What should I do? We've already made those decisions. And they're hard decisions, but we're okay with them.
Our thanks to Harry Smith, but also to Paul and Jean Pearson, who we happen to know are watching our broadcast at home tonight. They allowed us to join in their life-changing conversation. Thank you on our behalf for sharing your bravery.
All right, that was kind of a heavy video, but I think it kind of emphasizes the importance of having these conversations. And one person who understands these conversations all too well is Dr. Iris Betcher. She is board certified internist as well as board certified in palliative care and a gerontologist. We're fortunate to have her as our medical director at Life Circles, and she's going to be talking about the projects that she's been involved with related to advanced care planning and her experience with hundreds of patients and families. So, welcome.
Benson's Drug Company, the home of Benson's Bottom Pain. Offering an expanded grocery selection, Medicare billing, and diabetes management and education. Benson's now features a Kodak machine, which allows customers to edit, copy, and develop their own photos.
The best way to stay healthy? Exercise your voice. At the new Mercy Health, we believe that carefully listening to you and encouraging you to take an active role in your own health care is an important part of keeping you healthy. So you'll find our extensive network of physicians not only use the latest technology, they focus on what you have to say. Your voice, our expertise. Mercy Health.
Buckwheat Schultz & Associates Incorporated. Investment products and services. For more information, call 799-9889 or 866-799-9889.
Hello, Jimmy John's?
Jimmy John's here.
What took you so long?
Jimmy John's, freaky fast delivery.
I love the man in uniform.
Welcome.
Thanks, Luke, and thanks for the invitation to talk to you this morning. That video is very powerful, and I'm sure All of you probably have a story to tell, one way or another, of a successful discussion or a successful result of advanced care planning, and perhaps some of you have a story to tell or a story in mind of how things didn't go so well. So I think the Coalition's efforts to have advanced care planning embedded in this community is laudable, and I congratulate that effort. I've been involved with what's called Respecting Choices, which is the advanced care planning system of care in La Crosse, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit more in detail about that this morning, and weave maybe a couple of stories of mine along with that. So first, a definition of advanced care planning involves taking the time to learn about end-of-life care options and services before a health crisis. Advanced or pre-planning involves making choices based on a person's priorities, beliefs, and values, and sharing his or her wishes in writing through an advance directive. Advanced care planning can and should include discussions and document plans that address the ifs and ambiguities of living with chronic illness. And you saw that beautifully illustrated in the discussion between the nurse practitioner and the patient here. And you'll also notice that in this definition, there is no discussion about if your heart should stop or you should stop breathing, what do you want us to do? Do you want to be on a ventilator? Do you want to be intubated? None of that clinical stuff is in this definition. And there's a reason for that, because we have to first start with what people understand about their illness, and then and ask them about their goals, preferences, and choices in the context of that illness. So then if we're going to honor informed healthcare decisions, we have to create an effective plan that includes the selection of a well-prepared healthcare agent when possible, and specific instructions that reflect informed decisions geared to a person's state of health. And we need to make that plan available to healthcare providers and treating physicians to convert patient decisions to medical orders when necessary. So Respecting Choices, again, is out of the Gunderson Lutheran Medical Foundation in La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's a system of care that's embedded across the Wisconsin geographic area. And that includes northwestern Wisconsin, or western Wisconsin, northeast Iowa, and southeast Minnesota. They've had 20 years of experience in developing this systems approach to advanced care planning. And you saw Dr. Hamus there, and he is this is his brain, and Linda Briggs, this is their work. And they have really worked at a systems approach to this, and the PDSA, Cycle Plan Do Study Act. They are in continuous rapid cycle improvements. I had the opportunity to work with our consultant from Respecting Choices. We've been working with them on a project in the Grand Rapids area, and Stephanie Anderson was here working with us 2 days, and she was constantly collecting best practices and asking if she could take those back to La Crosse, because they continually improve their whole system by collecting good ideas across the country, across the world. So there's putting this system together, then there's 4 key elements for success: systems design, advanced care planning facilitation, skills education and training, community education and engagement, and quality improvement. In the systems design, you need an effective advanced directive document. You need something that clinicians can read and interpret and understand, and something that people can easily understand and complete. So it's really a working document. You need an effective advanced care planning team and referral mechanism. That person that conducted that interview, that's a very intensive training that she goes through to be a certified facilitator for next steps. And you need a reliable medical storage and retrieval system. These documents do no good if they're in the drawer at home or in the safety deposit box. and they're no good if the providers in the emergency department can't access them readily if someone's unable to speak for themselves. So then the advanced care planning facilitation skills education and training is not a one-size-fits-all discussion. It must be individualized to patient readiness and stage of health. It requires advanced care planning facilitation skills to address the stage of planning. So if this were the trajectory of life, the first phase of planning is called first steps. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see there at the top, apologize for that. It's really to create an advance directive, and that includes designating a surrogate or an advocate to speak for you in the event that you cannot, and also to consider what outcomes and preferences and choices an individual would want if you should have a serious neurologic injury. So, say a young person in a car accident has a serious brain injury and unlikely to recover, and then there's questions to consider about choices and options for care in that situation. And this stage of planning is for healthy adults between around the age of 55. The next steps is appropriate for adults with progressive life-limiting illness suffering frequent complications, such as the gentleman in the video. And this is to determine goals of treatment should be if and when complications result in bad outcomes. So if you noticed, the interviewer was going through a series of questions, and those are based on motivational interviewing techniques. This is all evidence-based interviewing, and the series of questions follow one after another. And so these are very intense discussions, as you saw, with very detailed questions and situations for patients and families to consider. And then the last phase of planning is for adults in whom we would not be surprised if they were dead in 12 months. And this is really to establish a specific plan of care expressed in medical orders using the POLST paradigm. POLST stands for Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment, and that's it's a national movement. Many states have these POLST programs, and they're different state to state because laws guiding these documents are different state to state. In Michigan, we happen to have, it's called MyPost, which is Michigan MI Post, Physician's Orders for Scope of Treatment, and that's, there's pilots being tested across the state. A MyPost document is not yet considered a legal document in this state for a variety of reasons, which we don't have time to discuss this morning.
I believe that the true value of a funeral is the gathering together of people and the sharing of stories. Stories of love and honor, respect and memories. We gather together because we as human beings, we need that contact, that emotional connection that we get when we gather together. We gather together at all sorts of times, at birthdays and anniversaries, at graduations, retirements, weddings, and at funerals. And at each and every one of those gatherings, we tell stories. And it's through those stories that we show our love and respect. It's through those stories that we learn and grow, and it's through those stories that we heal. Gather together, share the stories, celebrate a life, heal the heart.
And then the next key element is community education and engagement, which we're all involved in right here, and having common education and communication materials, similar language, so that we know that if we're in our PCP's office, we're in a health clinic, we're in an emergency department, we're in a hospital, we're at Life Circles, we have the same language. We know that patient advocate, we know what that means. We know what an advance directive means. We know that the importance of sending it, where to send it. So we have common language, common education, and communication materials. And the last key element is quality improvement. And this is the Plan, Do, Study, Act, but it's around 5 promises. That we will initiate conversations about advanced care planning with all adults who need to plan. We will skillfully facilitate planning with each individual. We will make sure that all advanced care plans are clear to all involved and specific to each person. And we'll make sure that plans are available when needed, and will follow plans in a thoughtful and respectful way. So I have 2 stories to tell about around these promises. So making sure that all plans are clear to all involved and specific to each person. So I was involved in the care of a patient who had advancing and advanced dementia to the point that she was unable most days to recognize her family. She could speak a few words and had a severe lung disease and had constant episodes of aspiration pneumonia. And her daughter, who was her advocate, had heard her mother say when she was younger and a family member of the patient had passed, she had made the comment to her daughter, who was her advocate now, that she thought that they had pulled the plug too soon. And so her daughter remembered that. And so had this guilt about pulling the plug too soon. And so that was a plan that wasn't clear. It was a conversation that wasn't completed. It was a thought that wasn't explored. And that could have been avoided had a facilitated conversation to say, well, what does that mean to you? It's a similar thing about in some of these plans that I read and have the opportunity to review, I don't want to be a vegetable. Well, I don't know if that's broccoli, squash, or rutabagas. I don't know what that means. And physicians, that have to interpret these plans and read them, they have to be clear. It has to be clear. And so a facilitated discussion results in a clear plan that that physicians and providers can operationalize. And then making sure that the plans are available when needed. There's a little story about this. So again, there are rules in nursing homes about, somebody doesn't want to be resuscitated, somebody doesn't want to go to the hospital, and so then you have to enact the advocate, having 2 signatures, so that then that makes the person the decision maker. So the patient gets admitted to the nursing home, is unable to speak for herself, has designated her husband to be her advocate, and there is 1 signature on the paper, but not 2. The patient arrests in front of her husband, the advocate, and because there's not 2 signatures, we think we are bound to call 911, and the patient is resuscitated. And then, so the plan really wasn't available in that regard. It wasn't complete. It wasn't technically correct. So, and so then we have this moral distress in an ICU with a husband weeping by the side of his wife because, well, we it wasn't technically complete. Now, one could argue that, well, you know, the nursing home did what they were supposed to do because it wasn't clear. You know, the plan wasn't available. It wasn't technically complete. I think in some certain circumstances, we need to do what's right by the patient and worry about the paperwork later. And actually, an elder law attorney confirmed my discomfort with the decision that was made. So I think as providers, we need to understand that, you know, sometimes we need to do, if the husband is the advocate and has been designated as such, and the patient cannot make her own decisions, and he knows what she wants, then we need to really rely on that and you know, maybe complete the signatures later. So that's do we have time for questions or need to move on? Okay. Anyone question or comment? So again, I applaud this community for taking on this work. It's not easy, but it is very rewarding, and I think the result of it you will see and have the ability to say that 95% of the time people have an advance directive. The plan is with them when they die, and 99% of the time that plan is respected by providers. And that's the results that they have in La Crosse.
Hello, my name is Brett Wright. I own and operate Phoenix Crematory Services. Phoenix Crematory Services is located in Muskegon, Michigan, and we work with area funeral homes offering cremation services. We also are able to work directly with your family and their cremation needs. If you would like more information on the services that we have to offer, please contact us 231-733-5200 or go on our website, www.muskegoncremation.com. Thank you.
The Pizza Ranch, featuring a buffet that is guaranteed to please even the pickiest eaters. From a full soup and salad bar, pizzas and breadsticks, to mouth-watering roasted chicken, potatoes and gravy, vegetables, drinks and desserts, all for just one price. Their menu features a wide variety of delectable favorites. You can dine in, carry out, or have your meals delivered. There's something for everyone at the Pizza Ranch.
Yes.
Yeah, if you have one of these forms filled out and it's properly signed, etc., but the hospital has a particular religious perspective or code of ethics that is in conflict with your wishes, what happens?
Well, I think that your wishes should be respected. I don't know that hospitals in this day and age have the right to, unless they, plaster that on their marquee. I know that there have been some concerns about Roman Catholic Hospital or affiliations in particular, and that recently we had that reviewed by the administration and the attorneys at that particular hospital, the advance directive, and they had agreed to do that. In fact, offered to put on there that this is consistent with the code of ethics of this hospital. And that was the advance directive that...
to honor the person's
yes.
choices.
I know that that comes up from time to time, having religious or spiritual concerns, but that's actually a question that's asked in the first steps, or actually it's all phases of planning, and if that comes up, that point is clarified for the individual at that time. So it's a good, when you're doing your planning, if you're having a facilitated conversation, that question comes up. So you would have the opportunity then to have that answered during a facilitated discussion.
Through a staff at the hospital?
Mm-hmm. So there would be a mechanism in place to get that concern of yours answered and clarified to give you peace of mind. Yes?
When you talked about that, it was very clear to me, and I was listening to the dialogue, and she was saying the probability of recovering from this is low. My question about that is, who defines low? And if it has to be clear, how do we explain that to patients? What's low probability and what's the cutoff?
Well, if you notice, she did clarify that. She said, such as, you know, only 5 out of 100 would survive a procedure. So that's how she defined low. So good catch. And so it was low, and by that I mean only 5 out of 100 survive.
I think the tough part is that in medicine, as you know, we can't always look at a patient and say your chances are 5 out of 100. So sometimes we're sort of estimating, that's where I think it can be difficult having that conversation.
Yes. I think in the advanced care planning discussion about survival of a CPR, for example, the actual numbers are provided as a part of that conversation, not just a pamphlet to be handed out, but as part of that conversation. Those actual figures nationally are put in the education materials so that people know that, you know, they're actually asked in the course of the conversation. You know, resuscitation isn't always as successful as some people think. You know, how successful do you think it is for you? And sort of get, 50%, or, you know, on TV, everybody survives, you know. Well, you know, they actually, you know, it's if you have need CPR in a hospital, your chance of survival is 17%. And if you're in a nursing home, it's less than 3%.
In your system design, you talked about the reliability of the medical records for those wishes being passed along from the physician's offices to facilities. And in La Crosse, was it just an excellent EMR system that they had, or?
They actually started out with a paper system that was, you know, they communicated that they had a, you know, communication system that passed that paper. Now it's embedded in their EMR. And the good news here in Muskegon is that there's a health information exchange called Michigan Health Connect, and they are a repository for health information, not just advanced directives, but histories and physicals, labs, that sort of thing. So they are able to collect that from health systems and then also push it out to other health systems. And in a collaborative effort between Spectrum Health and Trinity, funded actually Michigan Health Connect's ability to have a place in their health information exchange for advanced care planning documents. And they are able now to accept them. They actually have a process of reviewing them to make sure that they're technically complete. And then they put them, upload them into their health information, into the HIE. Having said that, that doesn't mean that every system then is pulling that into their own EHR. I mean, there's work to be done, but the good news is at least we've started. And I think that there are all sorts of complications of that. You still have to have, today, unfortunately, we still have to have paper. I mean, you take it along with you. But I think the day is coming when we will be able to have that, just like allergies for providers. Here's the advanced directive. Click on that. Is the plan? Who's the advocate? What's the plan? I can see that in the ED. The EMS personnel can even see that. So, stay tuned. Yes.
Where do you keep these? And is there a way to have it in your system or in your records at the hospital?
Well, right now, the rudimentary one is this through Michigan Health Connect. But currently, what you should do with that is give a copy to your primary care physician, send a copy to the hospital of your choice, and I would recommend that you keep a copy of that in the glove box of your car. And also, there are available little wallet cards so that you can put on there, this is your advocate, and the contact information, because that's very helpful.
But will EMS look in the glove box of someone's car?
Yes.
Oh, they will.
Yes.
Sometimes in touch with families that don't have an advocate, or the other person doesn't want to be responsible advocate for the blood. What do people do with that? Where they go to have that 5 wishes, but there's no one, or their designated person doesn't want that responsibility.
Well, that's a good point, and that's part of the conversation in first steps planning. So if someone can't think of someone to be their advocate, or the person that they have chosen is really not appropriate, that comes out in that whole first phase of planning, which is why it's very important, to do that, because through that facilitated conversation, those kinds of issues and problems come up and can be resolved before a healthcare crisis. I think I've talked.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bretcher. Good questions. As I'm here listening, I think if we as a community can figure out how to just normalize this as an expectation instead of something that's different or unique, that's kind of the goal here, is just this as much as part of our lives as having a driver's license. So.
Which would you rather do, this or this? We thought so. For the jobs nobody likes to do, Batka's cleaning service.
Exhaust Specialties, from trucks and cars to street rods and Model Ts, both foreign and domestic. Exhaust Specialties now includes brakes, shocks, suspension work, and minor engine repair. They use only heavy gauge stainless and aluminum pipe. They also feature custom jewels as well as a selection of lubes, oils, and filters and other auto parts. Exhaust Specialties located at 5401 Apple Avenue in Muskegon.
The fresh and tasty deli located inside the Henry Street Health Hut offers a variety of options for every diet. Organic, raw, vegan, vegetarian, gluten, or grain-free. You can sample specialty sandwiches, or you can build your own wrapper salad by choosing from a wide selection of fresh meats, cheeses, veggies, and dressings. From gourmet soups to smoothies, shakes, juices, herbal teas and coffee to mouth-watering desserts. The fresh and tasty deli is here to serve you.
All right. So Kathy Agard. Kathy is here to share her family story around advanced care planning. She grew up here in Muskegon and spent much of her professional life here in West Michigan. She's been a leader in nonprofit organizational development and held positions with the Community Foundation and for Muskegon County and the Council of Michigan Foundation. So we're happy to have her here sharing a personal story, and it will add some personal perspective to this initiative.
I know lots of people in the audience, and I'm going to tell stories about people that they also know, so you know who I'm talking about. But today I'm here as a mom and as a daughter, and not for any of the other reasons, and also as a friend of Mary Ann's, who I was telling her how wonderful hospice was at the end of my mother's life, and she said, oh, would you come and share a little bit about that? So you've seen some of these storylines in what you've already heard, and I'm just going to put a little life into them. So I have two short stories, one about my dad, one about my son, and then a little longer one about my mother's advanced planning. So my dad died on September of 2000. It was 1 month after his 89th birthday. Now, I was very fortunate in that both of my parents had good health and very much in control of their lives right to the very end. He had been a volunteer fireman for, I don't know, ever since there was such a thing as a volunteer fire department. And so he knew a lot about resuscitating people. And he would say to us, I think probably from the time he was 50 until he died, the day he died, every time I saw him, he would say, whatever you do, don't you ever put me on a respirator. I do not want to be resuscitated. Don't ever do that. He not only said that to me, he said it to my brother, my only sibling. He said it to my mother, and he said it to his doctor. Now, they had all the paperwork done, but he made sure that we knew that this is not what he wanted. Well, he had a bad heart, and the end of his life, he also liked to go fishing, but he would fish with one of his younger friends. Now, his younger friend was 75, but he was also a volunteer fireman. And on at least 3 occasions, he went into cardiac arrest, and his volunteer fireman friend resuscitated him on the ground, and they went back to fishing. So he was just going to live, right up until the day he, collapsed, which is what happened. At 89, he collapsed in the garage, and my mother was there by herself. And of course, as any spouse who's been married for 60 years to the same man, she panicked, called 911. They, of course, do what 911 does. The emergency room, the fire department, all of his buddies showed up, and they resuscitated him, took him to ER, and by the time we got there, he was on life support. So there we are, my brother, my mother, and I, and his family doctor, who was also our family doctor. So we all go to the same physician. And as we were trying to decide what to do, he obviously was gone, being sustained by life support. You know how sometimes you say out loud what's in your mind and you really don't mean to? His doctor leaned down to him and he said, "You're going to be so mad at me." So to talk to my dad. Well, they were able to wean him off life support then, and he lived another 8 hours. But I think about that often because what he gave us, and you saw mentioned here, was real peace. It's a terrible decision to have to make, as those of you who are in healthcare certainly know, and as people living your lives, to stand there and try to make a decision about what to do for a loved one. And the nice thing is he took that burden from us. We did not, it was his decision. He had already made that decision. We didn't have to make that decision. We simply were carrying out his wishes, and in fact lived in a bit of terror that if we didn't, my mother said at one point, she said, "If you don't do this, I'm going to come back and haunt you." And I think we had sort of had that feeling that my dad made it very clear what his wishes were. Now,
when you have dental problems, you need to turn to a dentist who listens and responds, an experienced doctor who knows the field and can effectively diagnose and treat your needs. who can counsel you on the best ways to maintain and improve your health. From repeat cleanings and fillings, to braces and dental implants, to teeth whitening, veneers, cosmetic, and kids dentistry. At Today's Family Dental, our priority is to deliver quality care to informed patients. We are Today's Family Dental.
Muskegon Area District Library, formerly the Muskegon County Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, offering public library books and magazines, both fiction and nonfiction, to visually and physically impaired individuals. With their new location at 4845 Airline Road, they can be contacted at 231-737-6310.
Now, the flip side of that is that this is me as a mom. Many of you know that we have at 27, our son came down with a very aggressive and deadly lymphoma, B-cell lymphoma. They thought he had a cold. He played hockey one night. The next day he went into the hospital and he was hospitalized for about 9 months and is alive, doing well 11 years later, partly because of extraordinary cutting-edge medicine. He's in a clinical trial. But one of the things that was difficult, and this is the flip side of my dad's experience, is at 27 you don't expect to be facing a life-threatening illness. And there is nothing, well, there are many things that are bad. It's terrible, let me put it that way, to be in the hospital with someone with 105-degree fever who is coughing, who has just gotten a diagnosis of a 98% mortality disease, and have the advance directive documents handed to you then, and as you're coughing, trying to fill them out about what do you want to have happen at your end of life. I mean, we were fighting. The only thing we had was hope. And to be hanging on to hope as a family and then to have to be there at that time was extraordinarily difficult. And I would encourage that, if as you're putting together your plans, maybe something that when young people get married or when they get their driver's license or some time before they are critically ill, advanced directives could be put in place, and maybe counseling by clergy when they're getting married, because of many awful things that happened and many wonderful things during that time. One of the worst was that I remember is sitting with him as he had to try to fill out that paperwork, knowing how severely ill he was at the time. So one was good, and of course, like I said, we had a great outcome. We're very happy that he's doing well and very healthy at this point. Now, my mom is a typical 1950s cookie baker, very smart, very wonderful, but always home, took care of things person. And she drove until she died, and she was one of those little ladies who you could just barely see over the top of the window, driving to church with the Michigan State flag flapping on the back of her car. So she died January of 2012, and she was 4 months after her 90th birthday. She died of ovarian cancer. But when she was 80, so my dad had just died, she was 10 years younger, she hauled my brother and I into the attorney, and she said, here's what I want. If you can make this happen, I'd like, and she had a list, We went, and so we sat and we went down the whole list of what it was that she wanted. And she wanted to put the house in a trust with a quit claim deed. She wanted to reconfirm that we were her beneficiaries on her life insurance, and she wrote on every single envelope what it was that the insurance was. You know how you get those through the credit union that you can get? So she had a whole bunch of those, these life insurance policies. She wanted to put our names on the bank accounts, and then she was done. So this was maybe 10 years before she died. Then when she was about 5 years before she died, when she was 85, she developed her list of who gets what. And she told us, and she negotiated with my brother and I, what do you want, who's going to get what. She gave a few things away, things that she could bear to part with at the time. And then she had this list of where her things were going to go, and had us sign it. So we both had signed the list that we understood exactly who was going to get what and how it was all going to be handled. And this is when she said to us, you are not going to fight, because if you fight, then I'm going to haunt you. This is where that came in. 2011, the year before she died, and you always wonder whether people have some sense, but she was turning 90, so I'm sure she was thinking about it. She asked me if I would start writing all of her checks so that I would become familiar with all of her banking needs. And so I started writing her checks. My name and my brother's names were on her accounts. Now, she signed them, but I became familiar with what the typical bills were and when they would happen. And then in the fall of 2011, she started to feel ill, and we actually thought she was having a cardiac problem. But later on, of course, it was diagnosed as ovarian cancer. Early in January of 2012, she got the diagnosis of stage 4 ovarian cancer. And her doctor, same doctor, really did a great job of counseling her about what of all her medical options were. And she said, no, I'm 90, I've had a wonderful full life. All I want is to be comfortable, and I don't want to go to a nursing home. And when my dad died, we had given her a little dog and his name was Nicky, and I want to make sure Nicky finds a home. So we called hospice because I knew Marianne, I knew the good work that is done, and had in-home. In fact, I think maybe the hospice nurse was sitting on the corner of my mom and dad's driveway, because I think she was at our house within 10 or 15 minutes of the time that we gave the call. And then we had, the whole range. We had the nurse was there, the spiritual counselor was there, the people who could really be helpful and supportive of my mom. And she was all set other than this fear about going to a nursing home and a real concern about what would happen to her dog. She went into a quick decline after that. And one morning she turned to me and she said, I just can't be home by myself anymore. I need help. I don't want you to have the burden of this. My parents both were very independent. But I don't want to go to a nursing home. What can I do? So we called hospice and said, can she come to the Poppin House? And she knew the Poppin House because her friends had been there, and so she said, okay, I could do that if Nicky can come. And the answer was, well, Nicky can come, but he can't stay, so you have to bring him back and forth. So we said, okay, that's not a problem. We'll bring Nicky back and forth. And we got her moved. We packed. The day we were packing her is, if I go on too long here, Marianne, you'll pull the plug, right? Yeah. Okay, I'll be quick. She said to us, so we're sitting home, we're kind of waiting for the hospice bus to come. And she said to us, we should do something about the money. I said, okay, what should we do about the money? Well, I had known she'd been saving quarters for her grandchildren in those books, those state quarters. So she had each one of those for her great-grandchildren. And so she put a little note inside and wrote them each a little note. And then she said, well, but the kid for my grandkids, my mother had been saving change for her grandchildren, for her 5 grandchildren, for years in coffee cans upstairs. And she said, since I'm not going to be coming back, we need to make sure that the money gets someplace. And so all that day, my brother was dragging down coffee cans full of wrapped coins, $2,000 each for each of her 5 grandchildren. And so we had tables out, we were trying to get them all, organized, like each child had a little name tag, and we put dollars by the name tags. And we had a hoot. We had so much fun talking about all that. It was her hobby, collecting coins. And then, of course, the people from the funeral home were showing up. And so here's the lady trying to sit with her and plan her funeral. And we're busy laughing about whether these were buffalo head nickels or whether they were silver. The reason I mention it is we probably looked crazy to those of you who were coming into the family. But how healing that was for all of us to spend this, sort of precious time together, counting out these silly coins and getting them out and into our cars. My brother had to leave for a minute, and so she said to me, now while he's gone, I want to pick out what I'm going to wear. And so we went through her wardrobe, and I really had this sense of, this is women's work that has happened. I had this sense of continuity with women across generations, of meeting and talking with the mom and deciding what she was going to wear. And she wanted to have her little angel pin on her suit, because that was one of the things she always wore to church. And just before the hospice folks came, she took off all of her jewelry and handed it to me, and she said, now there, that's it, I'm ready. So we got her packed up, we got her settled into the Poppin House. And then The next, like 2 days, she was not very long. 2 days later, she was, again, feeling pretty good. And her, John Thompson, who some of you may know, used to be in charge of United Way, was her good buddy. So he was there, and the head of the fire department was there, and these two guys were chatting it up with her. And she said to me, now, I want you to take this quilt over to church because I need to get it finished, and I just have it done, and it needs to get there. And I said, well, I'll take it later, Mom. She said, no, I've got company right now. I want you to go. Go do that. And then she said, I want you to stop at the bank, make sure that my funeral is paid for. And I said, okay, I'll go and get that paid for. And she had met one of the nurses, and the nurses had just lost her dog, had to have it put down. It was the same kind of Shih Tzu that my mom had. And they had arranged for an open adoption. And so that afternoon, I brought Nikki in, and they adopted out the dog. We carried all of the toys, and my mom said goodbye to the dog. And I think she was feeling pretty good. So then she was pretty tired, and we sat together for the afternoon. And I said, "Well, I'll come back in the morning, Mom. If you're, how you?" She said, "No, I'm just going to sleep. You go ahead and go home." And then I received the call at 9 o'clock that she had gone. And when I came in that evening, I have to tell you that the impression that I had was that she had gone down a checklist. This had to be done, the quilt had to be taken care of, the dog had to be taken care of, my funeral had to be taken care of. I have tied it all up, if you will. And the image that came just to me was of my mother as a young woman, sort of stepping out of her body and saying, I'm going to go play cards with my dad. And she did, in fact, have a deck of cards put in with her in her casket. So it was for my dad, I really learned this importance of giving your children peace about these ideas, that he really made it easy for us. From our son, I learned that we have to do it early, even when we're not expecting it. We have to plan. And from my mother, I really learned, as she had lived her life, about how to face death courageously and also with grace. She also made it very easy for us. Everything was taken care of. And all we had to do was worry about taking care of our family, not all of the other minutiae of life that is involved with people dying. So, Marianne, thank you, and thanks to all of you who are involved in this work. If you have not gone through these situations yet in your lives, you are going to be grateful for people like yourselves. So I really am appreciative of all that you have done for our family. Thanks.
In the 150 years we've been in business, many things have changed. Our greatest achievements are rooted in the things that haven't. Years ago, the person you called banker was also the person you called friend. When it came to service, there were fewer layers and friendlier smiles. And banks earned the trust of their customers and community while working tirelessly not to lose it. At Independent Bank, all this remains true today. Sure, we've made advances that help customers bank more conveniently and more comfortably. But at the end of the day, we know that people really need a trustworthy partner committed to their financial goals, dreams, and aspirations. And we've been happy to be that partner since 1864.
Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jerry Harriman. He is the Medical Director of Harbor Hospice and board certified in hospice care and palliative medicine. He's going to take us through some questions that will provide a unique real-time perspective on where we are as an audience here with regard to advanced care planning.
All right, we'll see how this works. I've never been a tech person responsible at anything like this, so so far so good. It's not been too bad, so my son would be proud of me, happy to say. At your table, everybody should have a little remote control calculator looking device. right? Don't be afraid of it. You're not going to turn off your neighbor's pacemaker or anything like that by it. And don't take it with you either. We have it tracked, so we will know exactly where you live and where you're at. But feel free to vote. We actually don't have them named to you at all, so we're not collecting individual information. There's no reason to be paranoid or anything like that about it. All right, now the serious questions here. Do you have a signed advance directive for health care or a durable power of attorney for health care? That's what DPOA-HC means. So, looks like you've all voted. Good for you. Let's see what we have here. Yes is 53%. Congratulations. That's very good. There was a survey done 10 years or so ago of Muskegon County. And Marianne, how does this compare to that? This is
better.
Much better.
We have polled, surveyed adults, 350 respondents. Was a randomized, validated survey in Muskegon County. 26%.
So I'll say it out loud. 26%, a true randomized study in Muskegon County 10 years ago was 26%. So that's double. And you know, I know we don't have a true representation of the county here in front of us, but anyway, I'm sure it's significantly higher, so that's good. Thank you for that. Next question. Have you communicated your end-of-life wishes to your family? Yes or no? Wow, great. 73%. Yes. So that's good. It's I found your stories today you guys shared were really motivating and insightful and helpful to consider that. And I think especially for younger people who don't think it applies to them because they're healthy and they're young and you know they're going to live forever here on earth. You know, it seems like, but you have other family who need to know about it or hear about it, so it's important to communicate. Next question. Have you had an end-of-life discussion with your doctor? A little different. Okay, here we go. No, 92%. Well, there you go. That's an eye-opener. That's pretty similar to what it was, wasn't it 3%? That survey from 10 years ago, it was 3% had done it, so it's an 8% now, so it's slightly better, but there's definitely room for that. Okay, next question. Where would you want to die? At home, 76%. That's very similar to national surveys, is 70+%. It's very close to the national survey numbers. Let's see, no one in the hospital. No one wants to die in a nursing home. Can't figure that out. Hospice residents, there you go, 16%. That's good. He's got a great what?
You got a great hot tub there.
Great hot tub at the Bobbin House. 16% of you know that.
You want to mention what the national, what the actual figure is? Are you going to talk about that now?
I didn't bring the number up with me.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can tell me or say it.
One of the reasons we put this up is because we want you to know the disparity between what folks say they would really like and what actually happens. And I think most of you might guess that today across the country, 50% of people do pass away in an acute care setting in the hospital. Another 25% will die in a nursing home, and only 25% are able to die at home. So it's really the reverse of what we're seeing. And you're spot on. When we did the countywide survey 10 years ago, it was just about 75% said that they would like to die at home. And that's what you see whenever these polls are done across the country. About 3/4 of those polled will say, I want to be at home.
So that survey said 50% of people died in the hospital, but none of you wanted to. So again, advance directives are the key to answering this. How afraid are you of dying painfully? Right. A quarter of you extremely worried. Remember, 58% somewhat worried and 18% not worried at all. I would put myself, as being a hospice physician, in the not worried at all because I know what can be done to help, so I don't worry about it. As long as I can pick and choose who's taking care of me. That wasn't on the question, but so I don't worry about it because I know what hospice can do for people. But it is, when I talk with people, this is what they do worry about. Dying, pain, or the pain of feeling short of breath, or whatever other symptom they might be fearful of. But people do, so that shows that. Okay, here's another one. How afraid are you of being a burden to your family and or friends? Okay. 31% extremely worried about being a burden. 60% somewhat worried, and 8% not worried at all. So I think this one we could tie. I think this one we could probably tie to ages. My mom, who's 80, she always says, "Oh, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to worry you." So I think some of it is age-related and generations. So. And lastly, what would you want hospice support? And there you go, 98%. Surprise! So, I think that's the last question. Any questions about the questions?
Any surprises?
Any surprises in what you saw on those numbers? I think one for me was the high percentage not talk to their doctor about it. So. Okay. Thank you very much for doing that. That was fun.
Getting this family together is like herding cats.
Simplifying things for families is a priority here at Grange Insurance. We offer a variety of policies through Grange Independent Agent.
Your partner in protection.
Whether you're a first-time jewelry browser looking for an extraordinary engagement ring, a couple celebrating your 60th anniversary, or you're just looking to treat yourself or mark an important event, Prothheim & Swanson Gemworks is proud to offer custom-made selections handcrafted in America. Silver, fine-colored gems, diamonds, and gold jewelry, as well as strands of lustrous quality pearls. From ring and watch appraisals to in-house jewelry design and repair, ring sizing, remounting, to a complete rebuilding, you can rely on them to keep your old favorites looking new. K&S Gemworks, Muskegon's community jeweler. Memories made one at a time.
Are you confused and stressed out about your health? We here at Quest for Wellness are ready to provide a peaceful setting to help you sort it all out. We offer specialized massages including rotisserie, hot stone massage, or traditional massage. We also offer a variety of modalities to help you find vibrant, healthy life.
Buckwheat Schultz & Associates Incorporated, investment products and services. For more information, call 799-9889 or 866-799-9889.
Okay, so we're ready to wrap things up. I really appreciate everyone being here today. We have a few things on the table that we'd like to discuss here. The first is the actual 5 wishes document. This is the document that can be used for you to have conversations and document your wishes. It lays things out very clearly so that whoever you choose as your healthcare agent or advocate will be very aware of what you will want if you are unable to make your wishes known. The other thing here, if everyone could fill this card out, it would be very helpful to us. We are able to offer training if you need some training on advanced care planning at your organization. We also have copies of advanced care planning materials for you all to get the word out. So if you fill that out, then we can get back with you. And then this form here talks about some resources to help you move our initiative forward in your respective organizations. Good.
I think we scheduled this to be done at 9:30, so we do have about 15 more minutes. If you would like, we have some discussion questions that Dr. Betcher was going to facilitate, I believe, but they're also up here for you to take a look at, and we thought you just might like to have the opportunity to to kind of review these with your table mates. We still have plenty of breakfast food and more coffee, so if you're able to, to stick around through till 9:30, we'd be happy to spend these last few minutes with you doing that roundtable discussion with one another,
So these are questions that would be asked of you in a first steps facilitated conversation to sort of open the to open the conversation or to give you a flavor for what that conversation might be like. I listed some of the questions, which you can read and discuss at your tables if you have any questions about that or concerns. We're around, so you can ask us. But thanks again for coming today, and thanks for inviting me to participate.
Is this open for general question? Sure. If you have the 5
I guess so. Go ahead.
If you have the 5 wishes done 10, 12 years ago, is it still appropriate form and document versus this new? Because I do see some changes.
If you filled it out 5-10 years ago, I'm not sure that you did not, there was an attachment that you needed to make it to meet the statutes in Michigan. So if you just have the 5 wishes document that you filled out 10 years ago, you may want to, and I think, are these updated to yes. So these forms meet the requirement of the statutes for the state of Michigan. So you might want to consider updating yours to make sure that it matches or that it meets the statutes of the state of Michigan.
This is, it would have been when Harbor Hospice did their advanced medical training way back in the get-go. I would update using this. You would update?
The recommendation is to update. Yes?
We have the date added for, Marianne, do you want to address that?
What's that?
We have the date put in.
Do you want to address the changes?
Sure. Well, as well as I know them, and then others in the group can steer me in the right direction. When we did our advanced care planning facilitation training in December, it was noted by our instructor that one of the witness statement lines did not have on page 10 and didn't have the date. Was that it, Linda?
Yes, the date's on.
And the date's been added, so that's why this is, we just got these reprinted, and this is through support from the Osteopathic Foundation of West Michigan. Actually has given us a grant to help with this phase of the advanced care planning project. And so we ordered 1,000 of these. Mercy Health also uses 5 wishes, as do the other partners in the collaborative, because as Dr. Betcher said, what we want is to have a consistent document across settings. This is not the only document, and what you need to understand is if you have an estate plan and you go to an attorney, they will do a durable power of attorney for health care. And they know the law, elder care attorneys, estate planning attorneys. They will make sure that the durable power of attorney document that you get through that whole estate planning process is also a legal document. The thing that the collaborative members appreciate about this form, especially those that are working with adults in the facilitation process, is this is a good tool to help surface individuals' preferences and values. It gets at some of the things, for example, that Kathy really laid out through her stories that are important to folks. I think it also underscores the importance of realizing that advanced care planning is a process. This is not about just getting a form and a checklist, check, check, check. It's about having the conversations with the patient advocate, the durable power of attorney for healthcare. It's about having the conversations with one's family, with speaking with your treating physician. It's, we always say, having the conversation before the crisis. And you remember what I said our goal was at the outset, that when asked, every adult in our region, when asked, do you have a durable power of attorney, do you have an advance directive, that they will be able to respond, yes, I do, and know what that is. And do so, respond to that question without the fear, oh, my doctor's asking because something must be wrong with me. No, because we will have done our work collectively as a community, as Luke said, to make this just part of the standard of care. It's an expectation, you know, that we have addressed these issues, so that if we find ourselves in a situation where we're not able to speak for ourselves or make our wishes known, that other folks will use that substitute judgment, not what they want, but to advocate for us to get the care that they know we would want. And so one of the things we learn in this facilitation training that's so helpful is to talk with the patient advocate and make sure that person is somebody that will respect your wishes. That's why this program is called Respecting Choices. You know, it's to have confidence that your surrogate is somebody that won't impose their beliefs, their wishes on what you want. Marcia?
Yeah, does a copy of this have the same legal standing as the original?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you can make copies for all your family members?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when given to your primary care physician, this will be scanned and then attached, as Dr. Betcher said, up through that health information exchange, which is Michigan Health Connect, which is huge. And yes, you know, there's a glide path because not all physicians' offices are using it and so forth. So it's going to take a while, but now we do have a system in place. And you all can help advocate for that because it's powerful. You walk into your own physician's office and say, you know, I have an advance directive. You may get a blank stare, you know. And so, you know, this is where you can do some education.
McDonald's Candies. 1064 South Getty Street in Muskegon features an assortment of chocolate-covered nuts and creams, peanut clusters, fudge, seafoam, turtles, cherry cordials, and regular and holiday novelties.
Seaway Appliance.
Seaway Appliance is an established name in the community because we offer what the other guys don't.
We have a great selection of appliances and high-definition televisions, and we also offer professional delivery and installation.
And at Seaway Appliance, we have our own service departments.
Seaway Appliance, your hometown brand source store. It's competitive low prices and amazing deals.
Thank you for the business.
Seaway Appliance.
On Henry Street in Muskegon.
A monument is far more than a means of marking a resting place. It is a symbol of love and devotion. During your time of need, the designers and engravers at Superior Monument will work closely with you and your family. Superior Monument, building honor, respect, joy, and remembrance of a life.
Other questions? Yeah.
There was a reference to keep this in your glove compartment when you travel to our power of attorney and both our cars. But the doctor indicated that this is, designed according to Michigan law. So if
Yes.
you're in Colorado and you have a major accident and they find it, how does that apply?
Question is, will this be recognized in other states? Mary Jane, you raise a really good question. I think what I would say goes back to what Dr. Betcher said earlier in her discussion, which is while it might not meet every technicality of every state law around the country, it's a whole lot better than nothing, because emergency responders, emergency department, a medical team and staff will at least have the benefit of seeing what your wishes are, and hopefully they will be able to be in touch with who you have identified as your patient advocate that could then express what your wishes are.
Mary Ann, and on page 3 of the 5 wishes, what's so nice about this is 42 states recognize this document, so and it lists that on page 3 of the document.
Each state has some nuances that are different, but I think the more this document gets used, the better it will be, or some version of this document, because otherwise people are just flying blind.
Do you know if this is utilized by other healthcare systems in the area, especially in North Carolina?
I don't know that Spectrum is using it.
Well, they'll upload it and respect it.
Yeah, they'll upload it and inspect it. But this is huge that we have, through the financial support of Mercy Health and Spectrum, that Michigan Health Connect system was able to build out the functionality that supports getting this document attached, so we have a repository for the first time and can be consistent. So that's a good thing. Okay. Again, I want to thank all of the collaborative partners in the End of Life Coalition. There's a lot of work to be done, and we really invite you to join with us in helping us carry this message out. Dimensions of this, which I think are important, are the community engagement, having the discussion. Certainly, we want partners from the assisted living, long-term care, retirement community, that sector. Again, it isn't just for frail elderly, although in the absence of advanced care plans, I think the challenges are pretty great if there is not an advanced care plan. But again, we want to promote this for all adults as well. So if you have any questions, we're going to be around for a few more minutes. Like I said, take some coffee with you, help yourself to the goodies over there. And thank you for coming. We'd encourage you to look up the resources that we've given you on your resource sheet. There's some the website for 5 Wishes is there, the website for Respecting Choices, We are going to be continuing to do training for advanced care planning facilitators in Muskegon area. So if you have an interest in increasing your skill sets in that area, please contact us, okay? Thanks so much and have a great spring day.